Yo, I'm the mayor of Valleytown, Trump, and I am very excited to cover Anno 117, Pax Romana here. My goodness, I get a chance to look at this game, which I've been very excited about so early.
His feet won't be easy. The Legion has a saying: if your attack is going well, you're walking into an ambush.
Had to let Claudius finish there. I am sponsored by Ubisoft to bring you this video, but when they were looking for people to cover this game, I was like, pick me, because this tycoon genre, this city builder genre where you can go huge, where you can actually showcase your creativity in building your city, where your choices matter, where there's a cool little story as well. That is my jam. So this is a build which showcases the earlier part of Anno. Because of the limited amount of time that we creators were given to play the game, I vowed that I was going to play through as much as I could, and I'm happy to say to those of you who are watching in order to see what all is out here in Anno 117. So this part is for you die-hard Anno players. I got to see most of it. You can see over here, this is rare for me to set the game to fastest speed. But that's because I want to, get to as much of the game as I can. So really early off, we are already setting our supply lines, which Anno, the series, is so well known for. Doing the classic lumberjack sawmill open, but doubling it because one lumberjack and one sawmill is too little wood to use. I want lots of wood so that I construct lots of things. If I were playing on a slower speed, I might build 3 timber production chains. Maybe even 4 timber production chains. But here we've got the classic start of Anno. Anyone who's played Anno 1800 will feel right at home at Anno 117. I actually, in preparation for Anno 117, played some base Anno 1800 to basically get myself reacquainted. Here's Ben Ballion, a advisor of you. Very useful, great tips, great guy. Part of the tutorial. This is a good segue for those who haven't seen this series before as well. In Anno, you have a bunch of supply chains. You want to produce a bunch of stuff. Classic city builder. You start with almost nothing. You build supply chains in order to grow what is initially nothing into a gigantic city, into an empire perhaps. As you grow, you unlock more buildings. In this case, I unlocked the first initial needs for these citizens, which are basic foods. So we've got some fish, we've got some porridge. Most goods are part of a production chain. The fish one is the really easy one they start you off with. And you can see from the active quest, it's guiding you towards, the initial part of the game, where you want to fulfill citizen needs. You might notice, pause for a second and talk about, hey, there's special events in the game too, where this one's a nice little easy one. It's a peasant, a libertas. I need more lumber, so I'm going to spend a tiny amount of money for that. There's options on how you want to tilt your empire. I would say there's probably no clear option sometimes, which is fun when you actually have free reign as the governor to decide how your things go. By the way, you can build diagonal roads now and diagonal buildings, which is cool. I'm someone who believes in organic growth of cities and just building things as convenient instead of necessarily a big overarching plan. So I make plenty of use of diagonal buildings and roads. They look cool. Okay, but you can see that I plan on growing pretty fast, pretty furious. I'm already double fishing because I know I'm going to grow to where I'll need double fish, probably triple fish, probably quadruple fish. I'll need quadruple sawmills, whatever. One of the cool things about Anno 1800 and Anno 117 is that you are really given free reign to build however you'd like. You can take the game as slow as you'd like, but if you're particularly ambitious, just, you know, just go, vroom vroom. So I'm off to the races. I've unlocked, you unlock more buildings as you gain more population. Public service buildings. Menbalian points out that you want to build these near the residences because you get area effects on these buildings. There are cool area effects on a lot of buildings now. I don't necessarily know that when I go into this game, so I am not going to take advantage of that early on. There's plenty of mistakes and laughable blunders that I'll make, which I will fix later, but initially they may look silly because this is my first, you know, Anno 117 game. But we're just going fast and furious. We unlocked tunics and pileuses, so we're going to build a bunch of fashion. My general plan here is to build one of each building very quickly, service the needs of these citizens in order to go fast, climb the ladder, so to say, because as I get these needs serviced, then we will have a better citizenry come in, and then I'll be able to build better buildings, cooler buildings, and I'll be able to increase the strength of my military and of my economy. Whew. So I am just beginning this early part by constructing one of, sometimes two of, every single economic building in order to grow as fast as possible. One small note, when I began the island, you know, speaking of a bunch of blunders that now I know after having placed, I placed my initial manor over in the corner. It's somewhere in the bottom left corner of my base, touching the wall. That has some, it's like the trade union of Anno 1800. So you probably want to centralize that a little bit more, so that might matter. But whatever, the manor thing is like all the way over there. Aha! That thing. I speed through a lot of this tutorial stuff. That one actually was a very important tip. Basically, the end production building for a lot of these, including the tunics and the pileuses, they have an area of effect, just like the service needs buildings. And those would do well to be built in the center of your town.
We have found our sacred center.
So that's one of the big things that I could have done in order to get more income, to get more happiness, to get more health. Instead, I just built them over here, which is traditional Anno 1800 placement. I did immediately get to the next tier of citizenry. I'm very, very proud that I kept this path open without knowing that I needed it to hit this water thing. I was like, that's probably important. So I built a clay pit there, and I'm immediately getting the next set of structure tiles, because I know that in order to build the next tier of buildings, I'm going to need a lot of the building materials for that tier. One cool thing that I was doing with that charcoal kiln there is it's very terrain dependent. So charcoal kiln needs a bunch of wood near it, so does the lumberjacks. So gotta position them so that they have plenty of wood, and you don't want to overlap them, otherwise they gather from the same areas and then are less productive. Cool. Man, Trump, you're going really fast here. That's because we need to get to the later game so we can see all the stuff. I only have so much time to play this game. But we're gonna continue building up and onwards. Some basics while I saw past Trump looking. Up there, that's the employment figures of our town. We need some basics. So we have enough of that, but we don't have enough plebeians, so I need to upgrade more of these buildings in order to get more plebeian population. The other way to get plebeian population is some of those production buildings and some of those service buildings. They have the aura, which increases the population. By serving the needs of these buildings as well, that also increases the population. So just because you're building these buildings doesn't mean they get filled up. You actually have to build adjacencies which increase their population. You also have to fulfill their needs so that their population increased by fulfilling certain needs. They get more population, they get more healthy, they get more wealth,
Must be kept
things
burning at
like
all
that.
costs.
Did you notice when I clicked some of the buildings, and I'm going really fast, which means like sometimes the supply chains aren't built out correctly. Some of these buildings have a little icon on them saying, hey, there's a problem. When I clicked on this
I
building,
have a few new
it said,
proposals to take to the Magister someday.
she's about to double say, there's no warehouse. That's so cool. That's so cool. It tells you what the problem is in a very natural way. So we built the warehouse. You'll notice I built the warehouse like right here in the middle of this charcoal kiln and this sawmill, but because there's no trees in the way, it doesn't actually affect their productivity. They only care about trees. And here I am, I'm like, man, these tiles are coming in too slow. I'm going to double build, double production for these. I'm going to get another set of tilers, which is going to require another riverbed here. Don't pay any attention to the fact that I don't actually connect this clay to the road for quite some time. But don't worry, it gets fixed way later. Again, we're going fast and furiously, which means that... Oh, my boat over here. You actually get an initial quest to go out and explore. I may not have necessarily participated in that as much early, but this could certainly be done simultaneously. There's a whole world out there. I have this tiny corner of the map, but hey, we need to expand our city ASAP. We want to grow our population, and you'll actually notice that I was a little bit concerned over my money dropping. Funny story, there was at least one creator who mentioned that they went severely bankrupt during the course of this playthrough, which, you know, is cool because it means that you can actually go that far astray. So I unlocked the new buildings. This is cool. Look at their attributes. Look at their attributes. So if you fulfill their needs for the citizenries, the citizens get that effect. You may have noticed off to the side as well that there are certain regions where you actually can grow the certain things. So there's, similar to Anno 1800, there's two main regions. In this build, we don't have access to the other region yet, but I can imagine that for the higher level of citizens, you're going to need to connect to another region. Another region meaning not just this map, but we're talking about like an entirely new map. And comparing Anno 117 base to Anno 1800 base, which I think is the most direct comparison, because I could definitely see a lot of inspired things. Oh, I'm going to mention real quick, one major mistake I made here, I mean, one of many mistakes, that mackerel building, this island doesn't actually have the fertility for that. So I'm just like frantically trying to build every single new building and then completing their supply chain as fast as possible, not necessarily placing the things in their ideal spot. I'm going fast and furious. But there's no fertility for mackerel here on this island. Now that's interesting, because you may say, wow, that's really early to not be able to have like the first supply chain. But you don't actually need both of these foods in order to advance. You only need one of those foods, which is part of the flexibility that Anno 117 offers. You don't have to fulfill every single need of your citizens. Generally, every need -1 is good enough. You need every previous need, and then you need one of the new ones, one of the foods, between garum and bread in this case. I unlocked public buildings. This is a big deal because these get to, these add an area effect of belief. You can see from the praying hands. Belief allows you to specialize your islands. It allows you to worship deities. So these are like two things that you can do to make no island, no empire the same. you get to have a different belief system over here. You actually have a tech tree as well, which is unlocked when you build this thing, which I will lay the blueprint for because I don't have enough materials. Wow, cool. I look at the religion screen here. There's 3 gods you can worship here.
For goods transportation and patrol of the seas.
Ceres, Mars, Poseidon. Choosing either one increases your production chain in certain things, as well as give you a general bonus. I'm like, holy crap, that's a lot, and I had to slow the speed down to normal speed here. But yes, I pay attention, and I'm like, hey, I use this supply chain, porridge, I use this supply chain, bread. Ceres might be a really cool goddess to worship. So, I choose Ceres. I also noticed that she adds population in dwellings. That's a good basic thing to do. I unlocked shipyards and building ships. Building ships is really important. It allows you to expand your empire, allows you to increase your military might. Finally, you've probably noticed this guy sitting here for a while if you've just been watching the video, but this unlocks the first quest, the kind of campaign quest type thing to go explore the world, and like I'm finally going to get started on it. But you know, we get sidetracked. We want to build more stuff. Oh, I think the reason why I also had to do a pause, come to think of it, is I was like, or not pause, but go to only normal speed, is I looked at my resource of timber, and it's going down. I might need to build more timber. Especially after building this set of buildings. But we're getting our ship-making capability online. I'm being a good boy and following the recommended steps. Hey look, you can build civilian trade ships, you can build military ships. You can customize those ships. We'll show that later. This is a really good event for me. Should I take a bribe? I either pay 5,000 or I take 5,000. I will take 5,000. That's really good because I was running out of money. Small happiness cost, but these are the tough choices that governors have to make. New fashions unlocked. Again, as you grow your population, you have to fulfill more and more needs. You get access to more and more buildings. You can see that no one likes to live near the pig farm. So this is actually a surprisingly good spot for it. It happened to be like what was available, but out here in the wheat field, this is probably actually going to be good design for those who want to build very exact cities. There's a bunch of stuff that citizens don't like living next to here. And it's not just the residential buildings, but it's adjacent buildings. You're not going to be able to build those completely out in the middle of nowhere. You're going to have to overlap them at least a little bit. But it's probably good to have a pig district somewhere in the middle of nowhere, producing all your pigs. Here I'm like, oh man, I have no wood. Let me get another woodcutter sawmill thing going on here. But yeah, here I'm like, whew, I've managed to set everything up. Let's go, go, go. I'm basically like, yeah, give me more resources. Now I am cognizant of the idea that we are, you know, losing money. We're losing money so fast. And part of that is because I did not build the final production building of a number of these goods. I'll hopefully be able to point that out when I'm building the sandals and the soap. namely that it's really good to build those near the city center, so their aura of effect hits a lot of buildings, which the residences are a lot of buildings. I built the thing that unlocks research.
To progress. Research any specific discovery and reap the
Holy cow, there's a tech tree.
There are many discoveries one can research. Economic, civic, military. Choose wisely.
I think this basically shows similar to Anno 1800, but just more expanded. Tech tree, religion, while still having many of the same things that make Anno 1800 such a great game. City builder, economic management, supply chains, build as fast and expansive as you want, pretty much. Note, when I was talking about like a pig district, this second pig thing doesn't also reduce the health of nearby buildings. Unique production buildings give bonuses, and I'm probably at this point starting to be like, oh hey, I can see that some of these later buildings have a more negative downside. I should build these far away from everything else. Now this just kind of happened naturally because I was building off of usual good Anno 1800 tactics, which is building your supply chain close to each other so that the pigs go to the tallow maker, goes to make soap. But here I'm like, oh, look at my lavender farm. It can make everyone happy. But this is only +1 happiness, and when I build this and then I'm like, holy cow, look at all the space you need to grow lavender. This probably ends up being not a great move to place this right here, but better to build it like right on the outskirts of town. I was thinking at this point, well, this is going to be the outskirts of my town. But in actuality, I would probably expand the town to be more where the lavender field is. This is where the advisor reminds me, hey, there's some issues with how you've steadily built all these buildings. The wood chain doesn't have a warehouse next to it, but so too doesn't that clay pit way the heck down there. That particular pigsty also doesn't have warehouse access. So we get a few of those fixed up. And I am still slightly concerned by the fact that I'm losing 250 denarii per time frame.
Yes?
Which is probably why I moved the speed down to not fastest speed. But this building right here, I'm not sure if that one in particular has a high adjacency to population buildings, but if it does, I certainly should put it nearby. And it's at this point where I'm like, oh hey, I should finally go explore my neighbors. That's probably a great idea. And then I'm like, oh, I forgot to take the Liberty aboard. Quick, we gotta go back. And then I'm like, oh man, I don't have enough population. We gotta expand the city. The city must grow. Obviously, I'm setting up the city to go around the city center service buildings that I've built. And we are going to go out and explore this world. It's here where I'm probably like looking at these for a moment and I'm like, wait a second, those goods give plus income when they produce. Very nice.
Ithacus Tarragonus Taurus, at your service.
This is a very nice neighbor that's next to you. Tarragon has a style of being a farmer.
You've met a neighboring governor. Part of being a good governor is learning how to deal with rivals.
And you have different ways of dealing with rivals. You could go with a mean old, hey, we're gonna go conquer you, and you can go conquer them. There's land military in this game. There's navy, as usual, as well. You can also make them trade partners. You can improve their relationships by completing quests. This is also a cool thing. That's an improvement, I'd say, on Anno 1800. Instead of getting offered particular quests, you choose one of 3, and the quests refresh every certain time frame. So here, I pick up the collect some debris quest, which also naturally makes me explore more areas. And this is a good supplement to your income, to your money. And my money is still going down, so we need all this money. You can see that I have a style of naturally letting cities develop. There's no planning here, other than like, hey, we should make sure our service buildings are in the middle. And I have, perhaps inadvertently, this is good tactics right here, left a bunch of space here for more adjacent stuff. That is where you should put production buildings, which affect a bunch of your residences with adjacency bonuses. But yes, my city is naturally growing wherever there's space. Very nice.
I must congratulate you, Eric, with your first research success, and surely not the last.
Cool. Our first research. This makes stuff more efficient.
And so benefit from increased storage and extra loading ramps.
There's a bunch of bonuses you can do. There's a bunch of synergies you can employ. I realize, wait a second, my Scomber's hut isn't doing anything. There's no mackerel over here at all. Watch me panic. Watch me look at this, and I'm like, what is going on? Why was I even collecting fish in the first place? And it's like, ah, yes, it's for this garum stuff. And it turns out there's no mackerel here. These are what the island has to offer. And there are many islands out here on this map that you're going to want to conquer in order to collect different fertilities so that you can form a massive trade network amongst your islands. And
Mother reckons
yes,
keeping the codices does me good, but I'm literally dying to get back to Rome.
I fortunately have the foresight to build at least one firefighter, one vigilus. Fire has conveniently started next to it.
Thanks for bringing us over, Gov. Lady Diana's house isn't half bad, is it? This must be how they live down in Elysium, eh?
Here I take a look at these quests and I'm like, ah, she's not offering enough money.
Poor girl's got her
Nah.
hands full at the moment. Could you help her out? She needs a parcel collected from the Lady Valeria's place. As the crow flies.
Collecting these quests for your neighbors does increase their friendship value. And that's good because you could do stuff like non-aggression pacts or trade with
The
them.
necessary materials haven't reached us.
This is another one of those, hey, that's cool that the person tells me what's wrong. The person is telling me
Demand, perhaps.
a few things. This one's telling me, oh no, we're not actually shipping these because not enough people want salt. That one's telling me, hey, we're not getting the stuff we need.
Can you answer our prayers? You see, the Isis was lost with all hands. Now we found her floating in the bay, empty. My cousin Aura says she's cursed. That's the cursed ship. Do send her to the bottom of the sea.
We heard a story about a curse. A small fire has broken out. Too small to be of concern. I advise you dispatch a scout to explore our surroundings. Information is power, Ere.
Yeah, so I end up doing so much stuff at the same time there that a lot of the, I guess a lot of the stuff kind of back build stuff to do. But yeah, gonna deliver those 2 crates to Tarragon. They're gonna have a great time. It's probably at this point... No, I'm looking at the villa stuff. That's cool. So the villas are basically a way to expand out your manor in order to add more specialists. This is basically like getting the trade union workers. I've unlocked the final thing these plebeians need to get to the Equites. We want to make amphorae and olive oil. Now, a little bit more experience, I look at this and I'm like, oh, resin. We don't have fertility here. Olives, we don't have fertility here. So therefore, I am unable to complete the last part of the chain on this island. So I'm going to need to find a way to get that amphorae and that olive oil here to the island. Here is a cool showcase of what these guys need. I need 1 of amphorae or olive oil. I don't necessarily need both, which is very convenient, and you can see that I've over-fulfilled some of these by adding an additional 1 that I need.
Returning triumphant, and more importantly, unscathed. An old bull will not be yoked.
And you can see that Tarragon was happy that I fulfilled that contract, and he wants me to fulfill more. So, next up, I'm going to need to collect that amphorae and olive oil, and I need to figure out how to do that. So I need to certainly explore the world and figure out what fertilities out there, what islands I can grow. Or perhaps there's going to be something to trade with. A few different ways that I could provide that need to my citizenry.
Hi there, Governor. I run this island. Name's Dorian. I can't wait to join your routine.
Moving forward a little bit, I've explored much of the center of the map.
I had an idea for a new routine.
And we meet a lovely guy, Dorian. And I will go talk to Dorian in no time. Look at all the things Dorian wants to talk to me about. Wow.
What would Heracles do?
This is a cool little thing. A reverse loan. Dorian wants to borrow money. I am a bit short on money, so I'm unable to do so, but he would pay me interest for it.
Heracles. I hope we will be friends, you and I.
Each of the AI here does have a distinct personality. Dorian seems very friendly. He wants a non-aggression trade treaty.
I think that's just brilliant.
Perhaps on harder difficulties, the AI will be a little bit meaner. But this one is all nice and friendly. Look at that. You can trade with him. I note that he wants sandals, which could be an excellent source of money for me because we are still running a deficit. So you can see I'm running through my head and I'm like, I need some way to get money. Let me start a big sandal industry here so I can trade Dorian all my shoes. Oh, there's some meanies over here, by the way. Those are the pirates of the map. The raiders! Boo! We'll take revenge on them later. Alright, moving forward a bit, I sent out a ship to this island in order to get some of the resources that I need here. Hey look, we can make olives here, and hey look, there's this resource that I need here as well. One thing I'm going to note on setting up this governor villa, look, you actually immediately start with population here, which means you don't actually need to bring resources like I did. I was like, you probably need initial timber, you probably need initial slats to start a new island. But it turns out you don't actually need any of that. So you could start a new island right at the beginning of the game if you were willing to pay the cost. So you can actually grow both of these islands simultaneously, potentially. But this island will be set up similar to my first one. But that's a pretty big departure. You don't actually need to bring the timber to set up this initial residence block, you could just start off with a woodcutter and a sawmill and have the initial population to run those things. Moving ahead for a moment, I've set up my second island with some initial things. The thing that I immediately jumped on was, hey, this island has mackerel on it. I want to actually produce gallum, which is the mackerel combined with the salt. It was pretty easy to get the plebeians on this island. I did have to set up the supply chain and to upgrade these things, but that was done. And now in what should be familiar for those who have played Anno 1800, you can trade amongst your islands. You apply a ship to trade between the two islands. You can carry stuff back and forth. For simplicity here, I am simply loading the garum on one side and shipping it to the main. Now, this isn't actually going to be enough. It doesn't even necessarily do that much because the main already was fulfilled on food, but this will make it extra fulfilled. And you can see that by forming a trade route, it unlocks things. Stuff gets unlocked as you do cool stuff, and you can see, like, over the course of my game, I unlocked more research. More research is going to require more knowledge, which is going to require higher levels of citizens, which is going to require more citizens. Moving forward a bit, you can see that I'm eyeing this third island. I'm like, wow, expanding was pretty nice. And I have set up the production chain for the olives and the aphorum, the pots. You can see that I'm looking here, and I'm like, oh man, my needs are almost fulfilled here, but not quite. So I am going to finish that trade route where the second island is providing all of these goods over to the main island. I was having the main island also ship some soap. It's probably entirely possible to set it up so that there's back and forth trade, where I would trade soap over from the main island to the second island as well, and all islands can prosper. But in a rush to build up the main base, I was just like, alright, send the cool stuff from my second island to the first island. Speaking of which, though, it was easier to have the second island needs fulfilled because the second island has the fertility for the olives and for the gallum. And here's my ship over here that I've sent over to the third island. I'm getting ready to expand my empire. At this point, I hadn't paid attention to the fact that when you build out your initial trading post, that, you know, you start off with guys. Note that I have actually advanced my research at this point, and I begin this island with 55 of the, I guess we'll call them peasants, and 15 of the plebeians. So your future islands can get a head start. Looking back at the main here, I have managed to fulfill the needs of the plebeians, and they can now be upgraded to Equus. The main quest wanted me to attract 150 Equites, and we're gonna get there.
In the Emperor's eyes, you shine like a beacon, an example to all other governors.
At this point, I've actually collected enough money that I can loan our friend some money and collect a 10% interest rate. That is kind of cool, how you can loan money to your friends in this one. Having done well, I get to declare what I value, and I value faith. This increases belief at the cost of knowledge, temporarily.
Rome begs your ears, Governor.
And having advanced this far, I can start being of service to my homeland empire, to my emperor. And they have a famine, so I'm going to produce food and give it to them. And that'll get me some reputation. At this point, I've collected 3 islands, and religion is independent for each island, so they can specialize. It probably would be good to have my second base, which had that mackerel, perhaps worship Neptune, because there's a fishing industry there. But it's also potentially good to just have all of them be Ceres followers, because then I can complete the basically Ceres reputation track faster, which is, I believe, this one, the global belief across all of your settlements. And I'm like, all of these settlements, they want more population anyways. Seems like a good idea. So I've started to unlock the Equus stuff. Wine, cheese, and look at this, the stakes get higher. You get more stuff when fulfilling these higher need stuff, these higher citizens. And of course, at the very beginning, we need the new construction material. This is going to require limestone, which uses up some of the mountain slots on the island. The islands each have, like, you have to use quite a number of different resources and terrains. You've got the ocean for the fish, you've got the sand, you've got the mountain spaces for not just limestone, but also other things, which we will be bringing up soon. You've got the water for the clay, as well as the mill. Yes, I am setting up my Equus
Your judiciousness.
supply chain now.
Turn of events.
You're gonna need a lot of cement, by the way. And while I work on that, I'm also working on my 3rd island, my 2nd island. I am a very expansionist playstyle, and you can do much. You could actually just stay at your home base as well. You didn't actually need to expand, because you can also, instead of setting up this particular supply chain, you can trade for the good that you need with one of the NPCs. I believe that one sells olive oil, perhaps. So you could just ship that to your main and then ship them stuff. But I started realizing that, hey, I could set up a lot of islands and they could all support each other. They have different fertilizations, which I'm sure will come up more as I get higher and higher citizenry. So I was already pre-planning for a huge, sprawling empire. Speaking of setting up new colonies, similar to Anno 1800, where there's an old world, new world, there is also a different province that you can travel to. Not in this build, but you'll probably need all sorts of stuff that only grows in the other province, and vice versa. That province's higher citizenry will probably request goods from the old province, and you're gonna have to trade with each other, I suspect. But you can see I'm growing my 2nd base. I think my 2nd base, actually, with the construction of these service buildings, could also upgrade to Equus. The islands here are a bit larger than... well, they're a bit larger, so they can actually be productive instead of just be like farming stuff for your main base. Here at home, I figure out that, hey, I can grow grapes here. Very nice. And I can also make the 2nd thing. I believe that's honey. But yes, we make the wine. We make the grapes. We make the apiary honeycombs, which requires empty meadow. So you've got to
Perhaps.
juggle and figure out
It's the only way to get things done.
where you're going to actually have enough free room in your base to work this stuff. I'm figuring out why in the world do I have too much limestone, and all of these supply chains, they have their own ratios of inputs to outputs. And I believe I do the math and I'm like, aha, I need more concrete mixers. Note that even though I'm building this in the radius of the sawmill, that because I didn't cover that many trees, it didn't impact the production quality that much. I am proud to have collected enough money and cement and gotten enough tech and happen to have a great spot for this delicious theater. Huge service building. Building that theater starts the story of getting either Brutus Julius Lupus or Gaius Julius Lupus. One has nearby warehouses be much more efficient. The other pays half land tax and increases passive income. You know what is music to my ears? Passive income. But I can imagine a world where if I had placed my governor villa in the center of many warehouses, how Brutus would have been extremely good, perhaps better. So this introduces the villa. I'd already put one specialist into the villa, having gained enough prestige, but you can expand your villa.
Specialists may improve your island and economy in whichever way you wish.
And this goes back to the very beginning where I was like, hey, that villa, it probably shouldn't be built in a corner. This is where, you know, you might have surrounding areas such as Brutus be able to have their warehouses all work faster and carry more stuff. So that would be pretty useful if I had placed that in the center of a bunch of warehouses. And it shows the importance of island prestige as well, to get these specialists. And where did I get those specialists? I did some contracts for our friendly NPC main players here. That sometimes has the reward of specialists. So you can actually pick the quest based on the rewards as well. There was still some other stuff I wanted to try out. So I did some research, I got to the second level of boat, and you can customize your boat. So this is the war boat path, and there's some stuff you can do. Instead of having extra cargo, I can have more. I can basically have it do more damage. So I figure since it's a war boat, that would be a good idea to have another archer tower on there. Nice. You'll also notice that these boats actually cover a pretty large cost. The maintenance cost for these boats requires, for that particular boat, it took, I'm rounding here, 50 of these tribunes. So if you're going to build a decent amount of boats, you actually need an even larger populace supporting it. That might be good news for those who enjoyed playing something like Anno 1800 and were like, oh man, this guy's rushing me with boats. You actually need a pretty solid economy, it would seem, behind the support of these boats because they require citizen upkeep. Moving ahead here, I have built up my fleet and I've also toggled the night mode just to check out, you know, the nighttime. The nighttime fights look pretty cool. Look at those burning arrows.
Hope it's not too much of a stretch.
Put that in your lap and smoke it.
But yes, this is a collection of boats going to war. It's also possible to load these boats up with armies and then go attack. Well, for me, I've decided to be friendly with all of these neighboring guys. but maybe you really, really wanted that island, which this pesky AI settled before you could. Maybe that's worth declaring fisticuffs over and taking that island over with military force. But I decided to take out some hatred towards this initial pirating area.
My cabbages. Oh, you've scant need of my help.
Look at these AI, they're so friendly.
Let there be oaths of friendship between us. Good form.
Incidentally, building these ships caused a slight shortage in plebeians, which I suppose is only natural. And thus, the city must grow. What a glorious city that this is ending up being. Hey, I actually managed to hit 2,000 population. I hadn't noticed, but there is a lot of cool little data here as well, across what all of your needs are, what's coming from needs, what's coming from other stuff, all this data for you data nerds. It's there. There's also a chart of, like, you know, if you were somehow afraid that it wouldn't be here, there's the chart of what your islands consume and produce, you know, every set amount of time as well, so you can balance out the logistics. But yeah, surely at this point, I'm like, oh, man, look at that governor. It's so good. Or specialist, plus 250. Prestige. So strong.
Dear, the stores are overflowing.
You can actually see that these two specialists are both ones that wanted me to place this villa not in the corner of my base. It would have preferred to be somewhere in the middle so that it could affect an area around it. Well, yes, let's go look at the battle. It's time for revenge. These pirates sank some of my ships earlier, and that was not very nice of them. So I'm going to go attack. These defenses are actually pretty tough, but we have a decent fight here. A cool little nighttime sea attack against the pirate base. Now, admittedly, I actually don't make much progress past their early defensive buildings because they've got more in there, but it feels nice to take out the outside defenses, I suppose. Costly.
Effort at your service.
But ha ha! Take that, pirate scum. I'm gonna conclude with the big building that at the end I was like, I wonder what this is. It seems important. I know back in Roman times that aqueducts were very important. So I'm like, yeah, let me just build this aqueduct. Let's see what happens. Which requires building on a mountain slot. And then the aqueduct, which is pretty expensive, ships the water gathered from the mountain spot over to somewhere. I clearly have no idea what I'm doing at this point. I'm like, oh, cool. I wonder what this does. And I build the most expensive winding aqueduct, it turns out. But aqueducts are really important. What they do is they allow you to... good, research, yes. There's research that allows them to be even more effective. Watering down. So buildings that use water need less to function, so some buildings use water. Farms can benefit from irrigation through an aqueduct. Cool. And after reading that, I'm like, I wonder how aqueducts work. Look, I wasn't born in 117, okay, I don't know how aqueducts work. And I'm like, oh yeah, maybe I should just build these through the farms. Maybe that's how it works. It's not how it works, by the way. This is the world's least efficient aqueduct. For a little bit of context, this is like right at the end of the play session, and I'm panicking a bit, and I'm like, oh my god, I have no idea how aqueducts work. What am I supposed to do here? And then I'm like, surely there's some payoff to the aqueducts. Maybe this will tell me how to use the water supply. And in my brilliance, I realize at the end, the payoff is this thing. The cistern that distributes water. I actually don't manage to get it connected at the end, but you can see that it has huge benefits. Look at all of the health and fire protection buildings, fire protection you get for building the cistern nearby. Now, it does require that you actually connect the aqueduct to the cistern, as you can see from that art. Now, I was like playing the game and I was like finishing up and I was like, oh my god, I don't know how this works. But after reviewing the video, I'm like, oh, I see the little aqueduct thing on top of that. I should connect the aqueduct to the cistern, and then it probably provides the benefit. And that is how Roman architecture works. We've only seen one way that an empire can develop, and you've seen the Trump way of doing it. And I look forward to seeing what my empire can do when it spreads to Albion with the Celtic kingdom as well. And it's possible to start there as well, and then perhaps expand here. And similarly, you could start here and then perhaps expand to Albion. This is Latium here with the Roman Empire. But cool. Hey, good job coming here for your Anno 117 look. I'm sure that I got further than everyone else, right? Hope. Anno 117 is available late 2025. Wishlist now!